Although there's a growing trend of retirees aging in place, many are still moving, whether to be closer to family or just simply a better quality of life. However, just the thought of decluttering and downsizing can be super overwhelming. And in fact, a recent study shows that 54% of Americans feel overwhelmed by the amount of clutter in their homes. And when you're doing your research, you read the articles, you watch the YouTube videos, it makes it sound easy, but in reality, it is not. So that's what I'm going to dig into today. So in this video, we're going to talk about the truths behind downsizing and decluttering. I want to talk to you about the benefits. I want to talk to you about the emotional challenges, the mistakes that you want to avoid. And then we're going to talk about some strategies for some smart decluttering and my tips for downsizing without regret. The first benefit of decluttering when you're downsizing is going to be the physical and mental simplicity. When you have fewer things in your home, you have less to clean, you have less housework. And in fact, a recent study shows that eliminating clutter can reduce your housework by up to 40% in the average home. But not only that, a home that is decluttered gives you a sense of calm. Everything has its place, you know where everything is. It feels more like a sanctuary than a storage unit. And then there's the component of letting things go. Letting things go that are tied to the past can be empowering. It doesn't necessarily have to be sad. The second benefit is it gives you more time and energy. When I was researching for this content, I was actually surprised to learn that clutter can actually be linked to your overall health. A recent study by Florida State University found that individuals with extremely cluttered homes were 77% more likely to be overweight. Not only that, decluttering allows you to have less stress linked to managing all of your items and organizing and cleaning. And it allows you and forces you to rediscover your priorities. What is truly important? When you're not worrying about all of this stuff in your house, it gives you the bandwidth to take a step back and really focus on what is it that you want? What is really, really important to you? And the third benefit is it could provide you some financial relief. Downsizing could mean lower taxes, lower insurance costs, lower utility costs, lower maintenance costs. And when you're decluttering, you could discover items that you totally forgot that you had, eliminating the need to actually purchase more items. When you're going through and you're sorting through all your items, the things that you want to sell could put a little bit more money in your pocket. That extra refrigerator in your garage that you don't need anymore, well, the kid down the street who's getting his first apartment will probably gladly buy that from you. But it's a win-win. Get it out of the garage and put some money in your pocket. Something to consider. I wanted to also, just as a side note, mention digital decluttering, which is a thing. A recent study shows that 77% of Americans have more digital files than they need, leading to stress and inefficiency. Something to consider and put on your list because unknowingly it may be causing you stress when you have all of these things stored in your computer. You have no idea what's in there, number one. But number two, you may have signed up for subscriptions that you totally forgot about, costing you money, and that you can cancel them, put some more money back in your pocket, and free up that mental stress, that space that it's taking up in your mind. You don't have to think about it anymore. Now, all these benefits have been done on other YouTube videos, but the one thing that I haven't heard a lot about are the emotional challenges behind decluttering and getting ready to downsize. I'm talking about the emotional roller coaster, the day-to-day challenges of going down this road. One day you are fully committed, you've got a plan in place, you're motivated, you're ready to go, and the next day you wake up and you are sad, or you're questioning, or you don't know where to start, or you question whether you should be doing this at all. That bouncing back and forth is often from decision fatigue. You've got so many decisions to make throughout that decluttering and preparing to move process that you just become fatigued. You want to take a step back because you have massive fear of making a mistake. You're asking yourself questions like, what if I need this someday? Or you say, well, geez, my friend or my family gave this to me. I don't want to let go. Or maybe I have an heirloom, a family heirloom. It's been in my family for decades. I can't imagine, just giving it away. Or I paid good money for this years and years ago. I can't just let it go. These are all questions that are normal, that everyone faces at one time or another. And these are emotional challenges that can't be ignored. It's not as simple as watching a video and having a perfectly executed decluttering process. And then the next thing you know, you're waking up in your new house. It is hard, but there are some strategies. So stay tuned. I'm going to give you some tips on how to overcome some of these emotional hurdles. But before we do that, I want to talk to you about the traps or the mistakes to avoid when you're going through this process. When you are decluttering, the number one mistake I see people fall into is they try to do too much in too short a period of time. And that leads to burnout. If you don't have a realistic time frame, if you're giving yourself too small of a window to get a lot done, it will lead to burnout, and that never ends well. The other mistake is trying to do it alone. And I understand that a lot of folks are not fortunate enough to be surrounded by family. They don't have family help or even neighborly help. But there are people that will help. If you don't have family or friends that are in the area that you can help, that can help you, there are organizations that you can reach out to in your community. Call the Council on Aging, call, the town hall to see what kind of help they have. What types of services do they have in the community where they can actually send you someone to maybe give you a helping hand, at least sorting through some things. You can also hire companies. There are senior move companies that will actually help with that whole downsizing process and help go through that. And I've actually worked with companies that will not only help with that process, but will actually help sell, especially if you're dealing with a lot of items that need to be dealt with. But don't try to do it alone. The other mistake is that when I hear the words, someone will want my stuff. And I have some family members that I've heard that from. And this is hard to hear. They're not going to want your stuff. Sorry to tell you. And this is a heartbreaking reality that truly, when you have most of it, 98%, 99%, everyone's got stuff. Family's not going to want your stuff. There may be a few items, but I think accepting that reality early on so that you can let go will make it easier for you in the long run. And then the last thing that I would caution you about, the mistake that I see made time and time again, is you spend all this time and energy decluttering, getting ready to downsize. You move into the new downsize domicile, and you're like, this is going to be great, but then your habits never change. If your habits never change, they call it retail therapy, then you're going to end up back in the same spot that you were before you decluttered. So you've got to. It's a shift physically with getting rid of the stuff. It's also a shift here to get yourself ready for that next phase. Now, when it comes to downsizing mistakes, one of those mistakes we've already talked about, which is bringing too much stuff. If you don't go through that decluttering process before you move and you bring that into the new home, now you've got to deal with it, and it kind of defeats the purpose of downsizing, where you're trying to simplify your life. You're trying to get into a fresh start, but now you've brought all of your old life with you, and that brings stress. The other mistake is not starting early enough, waiting too long to get that process started, thinking that, you know what, I don't need to, I don't want to, I'm not interested, I'm not ready to deal with it. And then it's a matter of I have to. When you're in a home that has stairs and you're waiting to the last minute and then something happens and you have to move. Waiting to the last minute, waiting too long, then everything piles up on you, and that you have that compressed timeline can be a huge mistake. The other mistake is not researching the new home completely. What does the new home entail in terms of cost? Really thinking about how your new life is going to be in this downsized home. That means potentially letting go of traditions, letting go of having the huge family dinners if that's what you do. All of those things are going to be a little different because you're not going to have the space. And preparing for that mentally before you get to that point will help tremendously. Now, going through this process is not easy. Whether you're doing it alone or you have family and friends helping you, those family and friends are going to be emotionally tied to the entire process. Having some advice that is not emotionally tied is invaluable. And having a great real estate agent is invaluable. And of course, I'm talking about a 20% real estate agent. And if you don't know what that is, talk a lot about that on this channel. It is my belief that 80%, probably more, of the real estate agents in the industry, and I'm speaking from experience of being in this industry for almost 30 years, 80% are not skilled. They're not compassionate. They're not trained. Some of them are nefarious. They're just not worth what they're getting paid. However, the good news is 20%, and to be honest, it's probably a little less than that, but there is a sliver of fantastic real estate agents, an agent that will help give you advice on timelines, taking a walk through your house and telling you exactly how long it's going to take to give you an idea of the decluttering process, how much time you should allow, making sure you have realistic expectations on where you're moving to, giving you some advice about how you can get rid of your stuff, where you can get rid of your stuff to, giving you advice and input and recommendations on contractors that might be able to help you, or maybe put you in touch with a local company that can help you lift items. Having an agent that is embedded, that is a professional agent that is embedded in the community, when you're doing something like this, is worth its weight in gold. And I always recommend starting that process of looking for the right agent. Start it early, very early. I have folks reach out to me, asking for me to connect them with one of my preferred agents, 6, 12 months in advance, because you want to give yourself time to interview. I always recommend you interview at least 3 agents. And when you're going through that process, if you're having trouble finding 3 agents to interview, I'm happy to connect you with one of my agents. Again, I've been in this business for almost 30 years, and I've made it my mission to connect with the best of the best, coast to coast, the agents that truly put their clients' needs first. We're talking professionals that have been in the industry for they have a while. They have experiential knowledge. They've been through what you're going through before. They know how to advise their clients. I can put you in touch with one of those folks. It doesn't cost you anything. I do get a small referral fee if you decide to use them, but there's no obligation to use, that agent. I just want to make sure you interview at least 3 agents and get yourself aligned early on with a good agent that can help make this process a little easier for you. Now, I've talked about all the challenges. Now I want to give you some strategies for some smart decluttering. And at the top of the list, my number 1 strategy is you gotta start small. Give yourself an appropriate timeline, but you want to do 1 room, 1 drawer at a time, 1 area at a time. Make it realistic. If you're sitting down watching the nightly news, have a drawer to sort through. Make good use of your time. Do what you can when you can do it, but start small. Don't try to be overambitious and do it all at once, because it'll lead to burnout. You want to start small. Now, the second strategy is to use the 3-pile rule. Now, I did a whole video about this. You can check it out here. But essentially, what it is you're going to put everything into 3 categories: keep, donate, discard. Those 3 categories, everything goes into. It helps you move through the process that much faster. The third strategy is the use it or lose it rule. I use this all the time in my house, and I have several variations of the use it or lose it. And basically what it is if you haven't touched something in 12 months, 24 months, it's got to go. You'll probably never use it. If I have something that's been kicking around and I have not even thought about it in a year or 2 years, I will probably never use it. There are always exceptions, but this does apply for most things. I think we hold on to things for that just in case. Someday, the someday thing that 10 years goes by and it's still sitting there, you don't need it in your life. I will often go through and ask myself, if I needed this at a future date, can I buy it again? If the answer is yes, and it's not some huge, expensive ordeal, commitment, let it go. Let it go. Donate it. Let somebody else, use it and enjoy it. But you get it out of your life. Let it be free. Now, the 4th strategy, and I kind of mentioned this earlier in the video, and that is to actually write down why you're decluttering in the first place. Why are you going through this process? And you might be thinking, why do I need to write it down, Jen? I mean, I know why I'm moving. I don't need to actually physically. Yes, you do. Trust me when I tell you there's actual scientific proof that this actually will work. But the physical act of taking pen to paper and writing down exactly why you want to declutter, why you want to downsize. Is it, financial reasons? Is it family reasons? Is it health reasons? Is it emotional reasons? You put that down in writing and put that on your refrigerator, someplace that you're going to see every day. You'd be amazed on how much that affects your motivation and your momentum. Just the physical act of writing it down and seeing it to remind you when the going gets tough, it'll get you back on track. And then my fifth strategy, when you're going through this process, and then this applies to both decluttering and downsizing, is to normalize the emotional struggle. And what I'm talking about is the reminder that this is temporary. This is temporary. It will be hard. Some areas might be harder than others, but you have to remind yourself, I want you to remind yourself it's temporary. This is a season. That's all it is. Imagine yourself on the other side of this. Imagine yourself, at your destination. If you have your downsized destination in mind, you already know where you're going, take a picture of it. Put that picture with your written down why. And that will help you push through, knowing that eventually this will all end. This chaos, this, sleepless nights and the emotional roller coaster, it's just a season. It's the season that you're in now, and it will end. It does, and it is temporary. And reminding yourself of that helps you push through so that you can get to that goal. And lastly, some strategies for downsizing so you don't have regret. So you don't get into a situation where you are now in your new home and you're wondering, geez, did I make a mistake? And I wish I had thought this through. Or you're at the beginning of the process, you're wondering whether you want to do it in the first place, whether it's the right thing to do in the first place. And the one strategy that I would recommend you do first is make a list of your non-negotiables. What are the things that are the must-have things that you'll need going into your next home? We're talking, hobbies, lifestyle, what is it in your particular life that is most important that you want to continue in the new home? If, riding bicycles, riding a bicycle, physical outdoor activities, kayaking, those types of things are super important. Obviously, when you're going to look at your next home, you don't want to downsize into a situation where you're in a condo with no storage. That's going to be a problem. You say, oh, I'll just get a storage unit. Yeah. But really try to mentally walk yourself through that day to day. Does that actually make sense? Another suggestion of the strategy would be to temporarily live in a smaller space. What I'm talking about is the potential for renting an Airbnb for a little bit of time, a couple weeks, that is the same size of what you think you might be moving into, just so that you can get a feel. Can I live in this size, in this space? The other option without going to an Airbnb is, if you can, try to live in a smaller space in your own home. If you have a larger home and you can configure and maybe not use two of the rooms in the house, or try to have something that's equivalent to what you're going to see how that feels to live in a smaller space, a downsized space. And then finally, the same as decluttering, you want to write down your why on your downsizing. Why do you want to downsize? What are the pressure points? Is it family? Is it health? Is it location? Is it just managing a larger property? What are the reasons that you need to downsize? Downsizing and decluttering go hand in hand, and you can discover that those are the reasons that get you really laser focused on what you need to bring with you. What's the most important thing that you need to bring with you? This whole process is not for the faint at heart. This sometimes is a rushed process that is involuntary. And going through it with as much pre-planning, planning it before you're actually ready to move, may prove very beneficial. You might be thinking, well, I'm not anywhere near, in a state of mind to even desire to downsize, but maybe the next 10 years, that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm probably 10, 15 years from downsizing, waiting for my kids to be in a situation where it feels the right time. I want them to get settled, and quite honestly, I want to be wherever they land in the country. But I'm already thinking about it. I'm already starting to mentally, not a lot, but just a little bit mentally, adjust myself and start processing like, what will I want to take with me? What is really important? All the stuff that I've surrounded myself with in my home that I've been in for 25 years. I don't need all this stuff. I don't. But what do I need? Starting that process early on will help in the long run. Now, if you want to watch more content about this, you want to check out these videos here. I'm Jen Sylvester, and I'm here to help you be a savvy home seller.